So I'm just going to go through with you what you'll be needing for shellac. The first thing you'll be needing is a shellac base coat. I'm using the C&D one this time. Then you'll obviously need your colour. Now I do use the Gelish or the C&D product as a colour for my clients. They're two of my favourite brands. And then you're going to need a top coat. Now the top coat, I'm showing you both. You can either have a matte top coat or a shiny top coat. So your client might want either or, so I always have both. Now I do like having a matte top coat so then I can turn any polish into a matte one or any polish into a shiny one. You will also need a gel cleanser, so you can get that from your local nail supplier, as well as some alcohol to spray your tools and your file and buffer, some cuticle away, a good quality cuticle oil, as well as a little brush to dust away any fallout and dust that's on the nails, your wooden cuticle pusher, your buffer and file, as well as your little cotton pads just to remove, to use for your gel cleanser, and a towel to also pad your client rest their hand on. Now also you will need a machine. Now obviously when it comes to the dip system, that's a lot easier because you don't need anything, but you will need a lamp. So these are available. These aren't cheap, but you will use it all the time. It is the only way that you can do gel or shellac nails. This one I purchased on eBay for a really reasonable price, and I can use any gel product with this lamp. And or you can get it from your local supplier. There are a lot of brands that will recommend you use their lamp with their product, and sure, that's an option if you want to, but generally any lamp will do. These products have to be set in UV, so do be aware that if you pop your lamp on and your products are around it, they will go hard inside the bottle and you won't be able to use it, and also in the car. So if you expose these at all to any UV light in the car or outside, they too can clump up and go hard inside the bottle. So make sure they are well away from any UV exposure and away from your lamp when you're applying them to your client. So now we're going to move on to shellac nails. Shellac is made up of a gel consistency. Shellac is actually one of probably the most popular services that I provide to my clients. And I think it's just because a lot of people, like I said previously, are becoming a little bit more conscientious of the health of their nails, and that, you know, they don't want to damage them. And gel / shellac is probably the most gentle artificial product that you can use on your nail. I find that it is a little bit less damaging because gel is a little bit more flexible and movable, and when you're taking it off the nail, it can just sort of slide off or pop off the nail. It doesn't require a great deal of damage or a great deal of buffing or work to be done. So the first thing we're going to do, like I said, and I keep repeating, is take our hygiene steps. So obviously use your alcohol on yourself, on your buffer, and any other tools that you'll be using. And like I said, it's good to do this in front of your client because you're just showing them that you are taking the necessary precautions to great hygiene. Okay, so now we're going to start with our shellac polish. Now, the first step that I do, as I mentioned in my previous videos, is I always get rid of the dead skin around that area. So I just go with my little wooden spatula and a little bit of my cuticle away, and I'm just going to work that around the cuticle area. If we don't get rid of the dead skin, then we're basically sticking shellac onto dead skin, and that's just going to lift, and it's not going to give you the longevity out of your polish that you want. And so a lot of people skip this step because they're obviously in a rush and they want to try and get it done as soon as possible, but that's not us. We're going to spend the time that it takes to help that polish stay on as much as possible. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm also going in with a tiny little bit of acetone on a cotton pad, and I'm just removing some of that cuticle remover as I go along. So let's just continue on with our little wooden spatula, and as I'm doing it, I'm also pushing the cuticles back. We push the cuticles back just so we have a nice long nail bed to work on. also come across a few little chips in the nail like such. Just don't worry too much about that because the gel is going to go on top and actually strengthen that. If you remove it, it'll cut into the remember I explained this in my previous video, it's called the hyperneum, the technical word for that part of the nail. It's quite sensitive. You don't want to cut into that or file that back too much because it will hurt and it can get infected and it can go quite raw. So just keep that area as long as you can, especially if there is a chip. If we go any further back, it will actually hurt the client. So we definitely don't want to do that. You can also use that part to gently remove any dirt under the nail if there is any, but we don't have any there today. I'm just removing any excess gel. We're going to do that because we want to dehydrate the nail now. We don't want to have any of that gel left on the nail bed. And what we're going to do when we first start using our shellac polish is we want to abrase the nail ever so slightly. So I'm going to use my buffer and just softly get rid of any shine. Gel, unfortunately, will not stick to a shiny surface. So we've just got to use our buffer to slightly, abrase the nail and get rid of any of that moisture and shine. We also, while we're there, want to create the shape for our nail because you do not file the nail once it is once it has shellac on it, because it will lift the shellac off the nail bed. So we're going to first create the shape that we want. Yeah, the texture of the nail when it's being slightly buffed is actually what the base coat sort of clings and sticks to. If there is any shine, it'll just slide straight off. But this just gives it that little bit of rough surface to stick to. And this is a really important step, just to stop the shellac from lifting off the nail. Now the difference between this buffer and the one that I've been using to do my manicures is this is all the same. As you notice, the other one had a 3-step process because it was focusing on, buffing and polishing and shining up the natural nail. But this one is purely just for buffing out any bumps or abrasing the natural nail by taking away any shine. So this is a different one from the one that we used on those other days. This is obviously a little bit more coarser and a little bit more, I would say, definitely a little bit more abrasive than the other one. And last, our cookie. Okay, so that's our first step. We're going to just get rid of any shine on that nail, and now we are going to dust off any excess dust, and we're ready for our first coat of shellac. So using the C&D base coat, again, this is a really important step because this is what's going to help your shellac stay on, and it's going to build the first layer of your polish. So we're going to pop this all over the nail bed like such, just like a normal nail polish base coat. None of these products will set or dry without the use of your UV lamp, so you can actually do your entire, well, I normally do one hand and then pop it into the lamp and then do the other hand, but today we're demonstrating just on the one hand, so we can pop our base coat on and put that all in all at once. Okay, now that the base coat is on, we can pop that in the lamp for 2 minutes. So we're going to pop our client's entire hand in there and put our lamp on. Great. So we're going to let that cure for 2 minutes. So now that your client's nails have cured with the base coat, where we go straight in with our colour. Now you will find that the base coat will be really sticky. Gel products do remain sticky. You don't wipe off any of the stickiness until you're done with doing your shellac nails. So now that the base coat is on, like a normal polish, we're going to paint. That's a very bright colour here. Just something subtle. Our first coat of nail colour straight onto that surface, and we basically paint it like we would a natural nail. Too much on the cuticles or make any mistakes, because that will set in the lamp. So we're ready to pop that back into the lamp, and remember to keep your polishes away from the lamp because they will also cure if they're too close. So also so that will go in for 120 seconds, and we'll just wait for that to cure. Okay, so we are ready for another coat. Now that that is cured, I'm going to just build up that colour a little bit more. So we're going to do one more coat of this very subtle pink tone. again, you want to be conscientious not to flood the nail bed too much because it will spill over onto the nail bed when you are curing that. And that's what I like about shellac. You can just layer it very thinly, just like a nail polish, but you get that longevity of it staying on for longer than a normal polish. And that can go back inside the lamp. Okay, so now we're ready for our last step, which is the top coat. Now, as a point of difference today, because I am going to show you something a little later on, we're going to do 4 of the fingers with a shiny top coat and then 1 of them in the matte top coat. Now I wanted to show you this because it's becoming very popular. There aren't a lot of brands that are creating matte polishes in shellac. So I purchased a matte top coat so you can change any of your shiny polishes into a matte finish. And just so that we can show you how the finish, what the finished product is with the matte, I want to show you that as well. So we're going to get our top coat and pop it straight on top of the polish now that it has cured. This is what I love the most as well about shellac because the final top coat is so nice and shiny. I'm going to do the ring finger as our little feature finger there with the matte top coat. Back inside the lamp. Now the last and final step is just to go in with a little bit of gel cleanser. If you do touch the nail, you will see that it is still sticky, but that's just the residue left over. It rises to the surface of the nail, and we can just spray a little bit of that on our cotton pad. You can even spray the nails a little bit. It'll just take off what is left on the nail, but still stay nice and shiny. So as you will see, we've got shiny, matte, shiny, shiny, shiny. And so at first I was like, why is that still shiny? But obviously I've got to take the excess of, and you will see a little bit of colour on there. It'll just sort of take off any excess colour that is left on the skin as well. So that is shellac nails pretty much done. I'm going to go in with a little bit of cuticle oil just to, soften up those cuticle areas and moisturise them so that your client feels nice and special. But yeah, what I love the most about gel nails is that's totally done. There is no chipping, no breaking, no reaching into things and smudging anything. She is ready to go. Okay, next I'm going to show you guys how to create nail art using shellac. So stay tuned. So I'm going to show you some examples of how you can use shellac to create some cool nail art. There are some very popular trends going around at the moment with shellac and nail art, and one of them is nail chroming. So that is by getting a loose powder and popping it on top of the nail and making the nail extra shiny. So once you've finished doing your nails, You can go in with a feature nail. Some people are getting their whole hands done, but just so that I can show you the step-by-step process, I'm just going to do one nail for now. So now that the nail is done, we're going to abrase the nail ever so slightly, because like I said before, once the nail is done, shellac will not stick onto a shiny nail bed. So we want to get rid of the shine on one of our nails here by using a little buffer just to take away any of that shiny top coat. Turn a little lamp off now. Now when it comes to using a powder or chrome nails, you can use anything as a base coat, but just be aware that whatever colour you use underneath the chrome powder will sort of give off that tone to the powder that you use on top. So if we're using a pink and we use silver, it might come up similar to like a pinkish rose gold colour, which is really cool. Okay, so we're going to use our top coat again. We want to make that surface nice and sticky because that's what the powder is going to stick to. And we're going to pop that inside the lamp. So now that we've cured that nail, we're going to use a little bit of our silver powder. Now you can get these again from your local nail supplier, or you can actually buy them online for quite a cheap, reasonable price, but they're just a little bit of silver pigment. Now, if you can find a little brush similar to this one from an art shop, that'll do the trick as well. It just needs to be soft and a natural fine fur, or I think this is actually badger or something like that. It just needs to be a really soft little brush. This is an old acrylic brush that I don't use anymore. We're going to pick up some of the silver and dust it on top of that gel while it's still sticky. So tapping off any excess and lightly dusting that on top of the nail. It will only stick to the nail. I know it's going sort of all over the place, but it will just stay on that nail bed. Again, this is becoming a really popular method when it comes to gel nails because everybody loves the shininess of it. And once that powder is on, we're going to also go on top of that with the base coat again, just to seal in the powder. Otherwise it will just rinse off. You just get to the very bottom of the nail so that seals in powder. And back inside the lamp. Now once you're done with while that nail cures, once you're done with a little bit of that powder, you can use a little bit of alcohol just to clean your brush off. That should get rid of any excess powder on there. Pop some on your brush. You can even run it under a tap if you need to get rid of any powder. That's just for the chroming powder. It's got nothing to do with, it's got no product or anything like that on it, so it shouldn't ruin your brush. Just like that. Okay, now that is cured, we're going to get a little bit of our gel cleanser again and wipe off any excess and also any of that glitter that has stayed on the nail. So we have a little chrome glitter feature nail. You will probably notice that there is a little bit of pink still on there. If you find that that is still on there, you might want to do another coat just around that little cuticle area. It's probably the angle that we're on. I'm not going to do this as a part of the video. I'm just going to show the finished product because I just didn't pop enough on the cuticle area. Is that okay? So maybe I should use this as a bit of like things you might come across. Nah, we'll just leave it. So that is our chrome nail done. Now you will find that around the sides of the skin, don't panic too much, there will be a little bit of powder left over, but that will just come off in the first wash when you're in the shower, or if you once you wash your hands. Because the powder is so delicate, it can stick to little areas, even my hands. It is a really fine pigment. It's designed to give off that chrome effect, that really shiny, powdery chrome effect. But like I said, all around that cuticle area, that will actually wash away. Even under the nail, you'll find you'll have some, but that will fall away. So yeah, that's a chrome nail. So I did this nail in the matte finish, and the reason why I did that is because I'm going to show you how to do little chrome droplets on the nail. It'll look like wet little chrome droplets while keeping the rest of the nail matte. So how we're going to do that is we're going to get a little bit of our chrome, I would say purpley, pinkly is not a word, our purple pink powder, and we're going to pop that all over the nail bed using our same little fine brush, dabbing it on. Now you don't have to be too perfect with this, we are sort of doing this so that we can create those little droplets. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. So dabbing the powder on like so. Then we're going to get our shiny top coat and our little wooden cuticle pusher. And we're going to use a tiny little bit of our base to create these little droplets onto the nail bed, like such. You can do them in different shapes. They don't all have to be the same size because obviously, you know, water is not always the same size. Water droplets are not always the same size. And that's going to go inside the lamp. Okay, so wiping off all that excess powder, you can sort of already see what is happening. If you want it to have a little bit more lightness, you can go in with a little bit more of that powder. However, once we use our cleanser, let's see the effect that we've created. You will have a little matte coloured nail with these little shiny dots. Again, these powders can tend to leave a little bit of residue around the nail, and once your client washes their hands, it'll be a little bit clearer what we've created. Okay, so as you can see there, I've done a matte finish on the bottom layer, and then on the top layer I've done some glossy little pink dots, but I'm noticing that it's probably not as bright as what I want it, so I'm going to go in with a brighter colour as the dots so that we can really see them stand out. I used the pink because I thought it would be just like something subtle, but I'm not really into the subtle, so I'm going to go in with a little bit more colour. So repeating those little dots again, straight on top. Okay, so now we're going to use our gel cleanser, spray the nail, get rid of any excess, and we're left with a matte nail with some shiny little raindrops on there, some little circles on there. And we'll get the client to just wash their hands so we can get rid of all of that excess glitter. Can see the finished product. I'm going to just wash your hands over the quickly just to get rid of all the glitter, then it's cleaner and neater. Okay, so we have a little chrome nail. Now that all that little dust has fallen away, we can see it a little bit more clearer, and we've got a little polka dot chrome nail with a matte underlay underneath the nail, just for something a bit different. All done. Okay, so there isn't a great deal of problems that you can come across using gel. This is why it's one of my favourite products. And when I say gel, I do mean shellac. Sorry, that's just a habit of mine, because they are basically made up of exactly the same formula, only one is in a nail polish format and the other one is in a pot. But you know, you're only using 4 products, which is the base, the colour and the top coat. And for this particular one, it's normally 3 because I've added in a matte finish there. But look, the main thing that you will come across using a gel polish is that you will, you know, do your client's hands, do their nails, you'll pop it in the lamp, and when you take it out, you'll use your cleanser to cleanse it, and what you'll find is that a whole bunch of polish will come off. Now, the reason why that tends to happen is because you probably haven't put the polish all the way to the very end of the nail. Sometimes we're very, you know, we're not concentrating, or we've missed a little spot, or we're, you know, chatting away. And also what tends to happen with gel, which I've only recently realised, is that once you pop it in the gel lamp, it can actually shrink a little bit. So what that means is that the product will sort of come into the nail, which means that around the cuticle area you left a gap, but now the gap is a little bit bigger. Or say you've done it to the end of the nail, but it's sort of moved up a tiny little bit. So that tends to happen because of the fact that it's curing in UV, and as it cures, it goes harder, and when something goes harder, it sort of shrinks ever so slightly. So then when you wipe your nail with the cleanser, there's tiny little gaps. So you just want to evenly spread that product, and also, you know, drag it along the end of the nail so that you're covering every single little area. Another thing that can sometimes happen with the lamp is that you've really put on too much and you've flooded the nail bed. If you do that, it's really hard to remove that product because you've put it in the lamp and it's gone hard now. So you have to file that gel off like an acrylic around the cuticle area, redo it, buff the entire nail, redo it and put another coat on. Because if you flood the nail bed, which is around the cuticle area, it will lift and water will get in there, and the nail colour, the shellac, will come off. So just be aware of that, not to put on too much product. Now, another thing is sometimes you do your thumb. So a lot of people do their thumb separately to the rest of their hand, because as you can see, what happens is the hand is flat, but the thumb is slightly turned. And what tends to happen is the gel, as it's curing in the lamp, all of it falls to one side. So a lot of people do the thumb first and cure it in the lamp like such, on a straight angle, and then do the rest of the hand. I always do the thumb quite thin so that the product doesn't tip and fall to one side. But if that does happen, again, you will have to go in and buff it, flatten it, take off a lot of the product and redo the thumb and possibly pop it into the lamp like such. And that's pretty much all. There's not a lot that can really go wrong with polish, because like with shellac, because like I said, it's like a normal polish. You will pop your product on just like a normal polish. Base coat, shellac color, top coat into the lamp, cleanse it, get off any stickiness, and you're done. But those were just a few little errors that I made earlier on when learning, and so I wanted to just cover them with you so you're aware. Keep on practicing so that you can get your head around using the product. You will probably come across some of those things like I did, and if so, now you know what to do to eradicate any of those little mistakes popping up.